Everybody knows that the best bass comes from the future, right? So what better opportunity than to learn how to make a sick feature-based banger right now? Whether you're a beginner or an absolute pro, I'm going to be giving you the secrets on how to make a track as professionally and as simply as possible. And for today's video, I'm going to be using the EDM Production Bundle. It's my brand new sample pack and it's filled with over 2.5 gigabytes of samples, presets, drum loops, and a ton more. It has over 8 professional template project files like the one in today's video, so you can really get a feel for how you can actually use this pack to make any EDM genre no matter what. There's so many awesome things inside this pack that I can't even explain it here, so if you want to learn more about it, just click the link in the description and use the code EDM at checkout and you'll get 15% off. And don't wait because this sale ends soon. So without further ado, let's get into it. First, start the track by setting the project to a signature 140 BPM. To start off the song, you're going to want to add a hook or something interesting in the beginning of the song to catch the listener's attention. For simplicity's sake, you can always just use a whoosh sound effect. And layering the whoosh sound effect, grab an atmospheric loop or something that has melodic content and fade that in, but make sure to keep playing it during the beginning of the song. Then take a respace with a lot of character and texture and add a bass line to it. When writing your chords, you can always just take the bass line and double it up an extra octave, and then proceed to add your thirds, fifths, and sevenths from there. For this chord progression, I really wanted to emphasize the half-step change in the bass line, so that's what I built it around. Or you could always just use a MIDI file and try to tweak things from there. And when you're done, you should have a full sounding chord progression that kind of sounds like this. When you're done, take that same exact chord progression and layer it with a pad that has some higher frequency content. Then using the chord progression once more, you can write an arpeggio loop to add some movement to the background in the beginning of your song. And to make sure that things don't get too repetitive, you can always add one-shots and plucks in the background of the song that come and go randomly. Then, just to give it a little bit more rhythm, I added a clap with a lot of reverb in the background. What I love about this pack is that it makes it really easy to do your build-ups. Simply just drag and drop one of the build-up loops from the pack and you're pretty much done with filling out all the drums. Then the next part is adding all your atmospheric elements. You can take top loops, atmosphere loops, effects loops, and other risers to tie it all together. Then you have to add the melodic content. For this, it's pretty easy. Just take your basses, synths, and leads from the drop and add them into the build-up with a low-pass filter that slowly fades them in. But make sure not to add the sub-bass because you want that to hit harder when the drop actually comes in. Next up, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make awesome chord stacks. I included a folder in the pack that teaches you how, but you could always just follow along the video as well. If you open the text document within the folder, it will show you the list of plugins and presets that I use, but feel free to use your own presets that fit your style as well. To start a chord stack, you obviously need chords, so I dragged the ones that I wrote earlier with you guys into the project with an added melody on top. For every chord stack, there's 4 main layers, and I can't emphasize how important your bass line is because that will shape the whole sound of your drop. Then you have your lead, your sub, and finally a synth. Then just add some simple post-processing to each sound. To start, I added an EQ to the synth, cutting out the low frequencies beneath the fundamental frequency, boosting some of the mids and some of the highs. Then I took the bass and added an OTT, turning down the depth rate and adjusting the multiband knobs. Then I added an EQ, boosting some of the lower mids and grungier highs. With the lead, it's a very similar rinse and repeat to the synths, cutting all the low frequencies beneath the fundamental frequency and boosting some of the highs. After just 4 layers, it should sound something like this, but don't forget you can always add more layers and adjust the stereo field with them as well. Really quick, we'll go over the drums of our drop and then come back to our chord stacks to show how we can actually make them fit within the context of a song. So to start things off, I added a heavy stomp kick, a really heavy future bass snare, and then layered some top loops with percussion elements in the background. Coming back to our chord stacks, there's really not much you can do with the Deep Boy, other than adding some sidechain and making sure that the low frequencies don't clash with your drums. Then add in your bass, but here's a little trick with the sidechain. With a volume automation, do a larger sidechain whenever the kick hits like normal, but when the snare hits, do a smaller secondary sidechain to leave room for the snare. It doesn't need to be a lot, just everything in moderation so that the snare picks up through the mix. Then for the chords, I thought it would be interesting to add some 1/16 LFOs, and that would help it fit better into the context of the drop. And for the lead, I decided to add a few more supersod layers and drench them in reverb. This is also another thing that I'm really proud of, and I know you guys can do it too. Whenever you finish a drop, take all of your effects elements and background elements that aren't unique to the specific song and export them as one entire loop with the BPM and the key labeled. That way when you start a new song, you can throw that in there and it'll help speed up the process of actually making the song, so you can get your creative ideas into the DAW instead of being stuck in that whole production process. For the second half of the song, I didn't want to do anything too crazy because I just wanted to show you how to structure everything, but make sure to keep switching things up throughout the song. For this part, I just took a pluck playing a quarter note rhythm and opened up the cutoff as it continued. And then this one's pretty cool. I took a bass line and added a phaser to it to kind of give it that spacey ambient feeling. And honestly, that's pretty much it. After you're done making a song, I would also try emphasizing spending about a week or so just going through there and adding little ambient and one-shot sound effects in the background to tie it all together, and then you're pretty much done. But to get the whole main chunk of the song done, this only took me 2 hours to make, and you have a ton more time to really mess around and add new things from there. And I really hope that this shared some insight on how to write songs more efficiently. So with everything together, let's hear what our finished result sounds like. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. I really try and put a lot of work into these videos to make it something that you all can learn from, so if you have any questions or just need a few tips, make sure to let me know in the comments below and I'll try and answer them. And while you're down there, if you want to take a quick second to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, it'll really help support my channel so I can keep bringing more videos like this to you. Thanks again, and cheers.